Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily's. We are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn out at poem 682, Twould ease a butterfly. We've of course seen Emily in referencing butterflies before. In this poem though, Emily, it seems to be, is speaking to herself, and it's also another flower poem as well. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left hand side, chats with Emily is our playlist. I'm hopefully you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 681 poems. We just finished with 681, Soil of Flint. Here we have another comparison poem. And she's going to make the argument, it might be better to be a flower that's blossoming instantly than it is a bee that has to live an entire life trying to find another blossom. She says it this way: "'Twould ease a butterfly, elate a bee, thou art neither thy capacity. But blossom were I would rather be thy moment than a bee's eternity. Content of fading is enough for me. Fade I unto divinity. And dying, lifetime, ample as the eye, her least attention raise on me." I can't help but read this and not think of her love of John Keats and the poetry of Keats, who of course dies 25-26. She is aware of how fleeting his life was. Think about Keats, and when I have fears that I may cease to be, what does he say at the end? That on the shore of the wide world I stand alone and think, till love and fame to nothingness do sink. It's not fame here, but divinity. Notice it's not into, but unto. And then think about Keats's Ode to a Nightingale, where, as we have said in our lectures on that poem at learnstrong.net, the F word of that poem is fade or fading. Notice she says twould ease a butterfly, elate a bee. But she says to herself, you're neither of those two things, right? You don't have that capacity. But then she goes to the flower, the blossom, where I'd rather be thy moment. And I think that's the key. The moment that the flower blossoms than a bee's eternity. In other words, I would rather have a single moment that's majestic than a whole life like a bee trying to find my way to the next blossom. Then she uses the word content of fading, to come back to fade in a moment. I think content is interesting because it sets up with ample a few lines later. Is enough for me. You guys will remember her use of enough when we did 677. Do you guys remember that when she was playing the game of enough, and she said it this way: to be alive is power, existence in itself, without a further function, omnipotence enough. And again, 34 of her poems, she'll use this word enough. She finished that one: to be alive and will, 'tis able as a God, the maker of ourselves, be what? Such being finitude. This idea of content of fading is enough for me. This is all, she says, this is all that I need. I don't need a lot, right? I don't need to live the life of a bee. I just want to live the life of a flower that blossoms, and that moment would be enough for me. Fade I, notice it's not into divinity, it's unto divinity, which a number of readers have pointed out sounds very much like she's saying I can become somehow deity if I can figure out that moment. And dying, dash, lifetime, dash. In other words, everything begins to die at the moment of birth. Isn't that fascinating? Ample is the eye. I mean, it's obvious, right? Her least attention raise on me. Wow, she seems to be suggesting that life is made up of these special moments at 2a. What do some people say? Not here for a long time, but for a good time. At 2b, another comparison poem. The flower's blossom for her is more compelling than the whole life of a bee just kind of flying around. At 3a, again, I think, go back to our study of Keats to see the profound relationship between the two. Finally, to own a poem like this, do you agree with Emily in this regards, that it's better to have a short life filled with unbelievable moments that lead unto divinity? I hope Emily's challenging you. Thank you.